the supporters of channel member Firesoul. Liam Delap is scoring goals again and all is right with the world. Hello and welcome to part 22 of Saving Man City. I'm Kevin. Coming up on today's episode, we have two games for you in the Championship. We're at home against both Derby and Preston. Since you were last with me, we had a little bit of a sticky patch results-wise. A draw, couple of draws, defeat in there, but who cares about results? Because the important thing is Liam Delap is scoring goals again. He got two there. He's got one there. He's got two there. Liam Delap is a Championship player after all. 5 goals in 5 starts. It took a little while with him messing around, making those substitute appearances, getting match fit, but 5 goals in 5 starts, 2 man of the match awards in that time as well, a 7.23 average rating. Liam Delap is a wonderful, wonderful thing, and hopefully he will continue to show that for the rest of the season. Happy, happy, happy. That being said, we're not actually starting him today because, as mentioned in the last episode, got to keep rotating around, keeping everybody else happy. And Samuel Ibrahim, if arguably even better, he's got 8 goals from 7 starts. He didn't need any time to get up to speed. He did have a pre-season with us, and his average rating is ever so slightly higher. I think the Laps was a 7.2. They're basically the same, but we can only fit one of them into the team at any one time. So today is Ibrahim's turn. So we're going with Trafford in goal, a back four of De Gasperi, Mbete, Katongo and Edwards. Corner at the base of the midfield with Fiorini and Taylor in front of him. You can see we've actually got a little bit of a reshuffled midfield, largely because of an injury to John Joe Shelvey. He picked up a groin strain, and has missed the last couple of weeks. Will miss another week or so at least, which has allowed us to play Forner at the base of the midfield with a playmaker in front of him, which has been Fiorini during this spell. Could end up being Shelvey again when he's back in the team. It hasn't really arrested the number of goals that we were conceding, so that little theory goes out the window, and I think we just have to continue trying to outscore the opposition. And then the front three today, Jones, Dixon and Ibrahim up front. Let's get this team submitted. Derby, I'm not sure how good Derby are. Let's have a little look at the league table once we get into the match, figure out how good Derby are. But the form we're in, I'd like to think for home games, it doesn't really matter how good Derby are. We should be backing ourselves regardless. And Derby are down in 16th place. So we should be backing ourselves with bells on. Of course, the temptation now, because we're in decent form, we're like a third of the way through the season at this point, if a little over a third of the way through, very much look like we're going to be in a playoff battle, which is obviously better than I expected us to be in. There is a big asterisk next to that at the moment when it comes to the January transfer window, not because we're necessarily going to be needing to sell someone. Our bank balance is still looking okay at the moment. We might have to sell 1 or 2, but player values are much higher now than they were when we were down in the lower leagues. And Mbete, for example, is in the £20 million range as just one example. And obviously you'd expect to sell someone for more than their value. So if we have to let anybody go, it will likely only be one. That is a very dominant header from Katongo. So I'm not too concerned about selling players. What I am a little bit worried about is, did I get the rotation wrong? Because both Ibrahim, Jones, Lambert, I think they're the three of our attacking 3 options. Their parent clubs are all annoyed that they're not playing enough football. So the worst case scenario is all 3 of them get recalled. I mean, even in that scenario, we've got enough to put together a front 3 of our own that is spearheaded by Liam Delap. So it shouldn't be disaster town, but it could, without the ability to rotate and at the risk of injuries and stuff like that, it could have an impact on how we push on in the second half of the season, and we might just drift away from this playoff race. But as I was saying, if we are in the hunt for the playoffs and somehow manage to do the unthinkable and make it back to the Premier League just with consecutive promotions all the way up, which I'll live with you. I think I've been pretty clear. Didn't expect that to happen when the series started. I'm just too good at the game. We then get into the situation where we've still got those enormous monthly payments hanging over us for at least 1 more year, and we won't have a ground suitable for the Premier League. So, as mentioned before, the City of Manchester Stadium does exist in the database, but there seems to be no inclination for us to move back there at the moment. I don't know what happens. When we ran the simulations, before the save started, they never got as far as the Premier League. That's when we knew we had the database balanced nicely, because they got, I mean, in the last 3 simulations we did, we went like 10, 15, 20 years in the future, and City just became a League One, League Two yo-yo club. So the thought of what happens in the Premier League never really entered the equation. So it's not been tested. I don't know what happens. So it's going to be an interesting one. We obviously presumably can't stay at Gig Lane, but do we go back to the stadium formerly known as the Etihad? Or do we build a new stadium? Do we go somewhere else? I don't know. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But we are 2-0, 1-0 up, 2-0 up. So, I was going to say, how is Ibrahim onside? But it was because there was a guy beyond him in the left centre-back position who was playing him on, and we are 2-0 up now. And I mean, whoever we play up front at the moment, it's a reversal of where we were at the start of last season. Whoever we play up front just scores goals. We're very, very good going forward at the moment. I think it helps that we really put some investment into getting lots of attackers in the summer. The panic of losing all of our strikers that, of course, started with Delap leaving just over a year ago. We probably, if anything, brought in too many attackers, which is why we've got the problem now of not being able to play them all. But it has meant that we're able to play the ones who are in form, rotate them all, keep them fit. And we just have been very, very good going forward. We probably need to do a similar thing defensively at some point in the future, but we're not rocking the boat at the moment. This season is going far too well for us to be worried about anything along those lines. I would be inclined when it comes to January, unless we are starting to get threatening inbox messages about pending administrations, I would be inclined to not sell anybody and roll the dice. If we're still in with the shout of the playoffs when we get to January, I think we roll the dice knowing that we'd be better off losing a bit of money in the short term, but getting to the Premier League, which is worth 100 million plus a season, rather than selling Mbete for 30 million and then staying in the Championship. The numbers don't really add up when you start to look at them. So I hope our days of having to sell all of our good players as soon as we get offers for them are close to over. That being said, we do still have about £800 million of debt to clear. And if we hit rough form and it looks like we're not in with a chance of promotion, then we are going to be in it. If we're still in the Championship next year, we're going to have to sell next summer. There's no two ways around that. So we now need to push on and try and get promoted while we've got this excellent form and this momentum keeping us going. Right, Dixon has the ball. I mean, he had the ball momentarily on the edge of the area, gives it away. He's tracked back quite well to put the Derby player under pressure, but didn't actually win the ball back. And now Derby are going to try and get a goal back before half-time, and we're just not going to let it happen. Lovely work from Edwards, I think that was, defensively. And now Dixon finds Taylor. Taylor can't return the favour, although a little bit of a fortuitous bounce, and Taylor provides Ibrahim with the effort on goal, and it's back off the post from Ibrahim. 4-0, completely finishes Derby off. I mean, they're as good as finished off anyway, 3-0 by half-time. We are playing very well, and most excitingly, and this hasn't been happening off camera either, so this is a new experience for me and you at the same time, we're not looking particularly ropey defensively today either. Obviously, we've got our 2 new fullbacks now fully up to speed in the team in Edwards and De Gasperi. We've got Forner, probably played 3 or 4 games in a row now at the base of the midfield. Are we finally starting to learn to defend? Or was it just luck in the first half and now Derby have had a chance and they've scored? Maybe Derby are just not very good, which is why they hadn't scored until now. But now they've decided to get good in the second half. It's Ibrahim who actually, in sliding in for that tackle, has played a through ball for Derby that's ultimately set up the goal, which is not ideal. But we're not going to dwell on it too much. It's all about just holding on now to this 3-1 lead and hopefully not letting Derby back into the game. We're going to make some substitutions as usual. Ricky J. Jones can come off and we will bring on Liam Delap. We can put Ibrahim out onto the right-hand side. Dixon can go over to the left. Forner is tiring. We don't have Shay Charles on the bench, which seems like an oversight. And we're going to have to change away from this tactic because we don't have a defensive midfielder. We could have gone to a 3 at the back, which we've obviously used lots of times. But I guess it makes more sense to switch to the 4-2-3-1 that we also have trained. And we don't have a right back on the bench either. Who picks this bench? Goodness me, let's take Dixon off. And Ben Knight can come on for him. And we'll just stick with the 4-2-3-1 for now. If Derby start to come at us a little bit too forcefully, we will just drop an extra defender in. I think we've got Flynn down on the bench. Yeah, Flynn could slot in, make a back three, and then we effectively go back to the 4-3-3 shape, but with what was the holding midfielder, just playing that little bit deeper as a third centre-back. But going forward, the team has the same kind of shape. And, okay. We were just talking about how rubbish Derby are. That's his first ever goal for them as well. Oh, that's nice. I love it when that... I don't want to see it. It's lovely when that happens. Love it when they get their first ever goal and it's against us. That never happens in Football Manager, does it, boys and girls? De Gasperi then plays it forward to Hamilton. And at what point do we bring on an extra defender? With 20 minutes to go and only a 1-goal advantage, when we're as poor defensively as we are, inviting them onto us seems like a terrible idea. But at the same time, continuing to attack is madness too. We've got ourselves into a tricky situation where Derby really are. So we can't go to a back five now. Derby are just absolutely all over us. It's 3-3, seemingly from nowhere in this second half. But we can't go defensively now. We're not even winning. This is what happens when you take Forner off and that protection that he gives to the back four. We need another holding midfielder in the club. We need them rather urgently. Right, Fiorini is going to come off for Thorndyke, and we'll just swap them two around. And then Edwards is tiring, but we don't have a right back. We've only got a centre back. All right, we'll take Mbete off. Flynn can come on. And that just guarantees I don't get tempted to bring on a third centre back because we don't have the option to now. That's good. I'm going to be really disappointed with a 3-3 here. When you're 3-0 up at half time, you probably should be going on and winning the game. Didn't I say it was already over and done with in the first half? I think I said words similar to that. They were probably a mistake. Edwards now gives the ball away on the edge of the area. Derby lump it clear, but there's no player there, and De Gasperi isn't going to let it go back to Trafford. He wants to get the ball back forward again as quickly as possible. We feel like we're due a goal now. Katongo hasn't got the memo, but we should have got a win here. So we're all a little bit upset. We haven't got one, but there's Liam Delap. And it's a tap-in for Delap. The Derby defender just caught napping by Knight, who took the ball off him, slid it across to Delap, and he is there to tap in. It's the easiest goal Delap will score all season. What a mistake from the Derby defender. I don't know what he's doing there, but Knight capitalises on it, and Delap is scoring that all day long. That is his bread and butter. He is Mr. Tap-in, and after all that faffing around, we do get our fourth goal, we do get our win, and we have yet another match where we've conceded 3 goals. How are we doing defensively these days? Shall we have a little look? So goals against... okay, there's quite a few teams who conceded more than us now. None of them are not in a relegation battle, but we're not going to get bogged down in all that kind of stuff. We've scored more than everybody, and that's what really matters, isn't it? Let's play Preston now and probably win 6-5 or something absurd. So it's only been 3 days since the Derby game, so much rotation going on. Ferguson coming in to play centre-back. He's actually ended up playing centre-back more often than right-back since Edwards arrived as well. He's only 5'10", so he's not ideal to play centre-back, but he seems like it works. While it's... I mean, I'm not going to hold it against him. Shay Charles is going to play as the defensive midfielder to give Forner a rest. And then Knight, after that assist, is going to start on the left. Masaba coming back in on the right because he hasn't played for a little while. And, I mean, he just looked so good on his debut, didn't he? It hasn't really worked out for him since then, but he's the highest paid player at the club. We've got to give him game time. And Betrancourt is going to get the start today with Delap and Jones, the 2 loanees who make the bench, which means Ibrahim and Lambert don't get to be involved at all. They're the 2 of the 7 who miss out on today's match day squad. So Ibrahim goes from starting to not even being in the squad. And Lambert is probably going to be going back to Belgium in January, despite being a player I was very excited about when we brought him in. Goodness me. Very important goal line clearance there to kick things off. Trafford just absolutely flapping at it. But that's why you put a man on the line for corners, boys and girls. Tactics with Kev. Lovely old stuff. Shay Charles, I don't think we've played him at the base of the midfield since we've stopped using a playmaker in that role. So theoretically, this should suit Charles better than those 3 years he would deputise there and have to play the playmaker role. That being said, we've conceded again. We're always conceding goals. We are so rubbish defensively. I guess when we're playing Ferguson centre-back, that gives you an idea of where the weakness is in this squad now. We probably need a top quality centre-back to go alongside Mbete. I don't think it's Katongo. I think he'll be fine as a squad player for us. I don't think he's a regular starter. I don't think Shay Charles should be a regular starter. I think we need a championship, possibly can go on to become Premier League level centre-back to partner Mbete at the back, and we don't have that. And I think that costs us more than anything. Forget who we've got playing at DM or what role they're in. I think the fullbacks are fine now. I think we solved that problem back in the summer. I think Edwards and De Gasperi and Ferguson as well, when he plays there, are all perfectly good enough to play in that role. But yeah, I think it's that player alongside Mbete that is the problem for us, whoever it may be. Right, Masaba goes past his man, showing signs of what we saw from him early on in that first episode of this season. Now Fiorini to Charles, plays it into Taylor, who gets to turn on the edge of the area. I think he was going for a shot there, but it's blocked immediately. And now Edwards plays it back to Fiorini, and now Taylor lining up a shot again, but in fact plays a beautiful pass through to Fiorini to return the favour, and unfortunately he's only able to shoot straight into the hands of the Preston goalkeeper. That was some lovely football with Fiorini and Taylor combining, and now Trafford doing his very best to gift another goal to Preston. I don't know what's got into him today. He's actually been relatively solid this season. After the few wobbles we had from him last year, I've not been that concerned about him this season. Maybe I should be. Maybe he's the source of us being rubbish defensively. Perhaps they've not obviously all been coming from goalkeepers' mistakes, but maybe that is an area we do need to be taking a look at. Trafford has been our regular goalkeeper since non-league, and we're looking to take him into the Premier League with us. I don't know that that's necessarily a trajectory you would expect to see from a goalkeeper. Edwards with the cross to Betrancourt, and he's there. And I think he's stayed onside. We're all having a long look at the referee and the linesman, but no movement from either of them. So Betrancourt does manage to stay onside. And it is, I mean, it's just an example of just how quick he is. And this is what I was saying in the last match about we've got three, maybe even 4 or 5 players you could rotate into that position, and they'll all be equally as threatening. Lambert doesn't get a look in. Jones hasn't had the chance to play as a centre forward for us because there's so many other options. But yeah, there's 5 men. I mean, that's ignoring Dixon. There's 6 men who could all play as the centre forward in this system, would probably all score goals. One might argue that squad is a little bit too heavy in the attack, and it might be for the best if 1 or 2 of the attackers go back to their parent clubs in January, and we could maybe bring in a really good centre-back to sit alongside Mbete for the second half of the season. That might not be the worst thing that could happen. They are all here on season-long loans, so I don't think we can choose to send anybody back, but I think they can be recalled. We won't find out for sure until we get to January, but if we're able to send Lambert back, maybe we send Lambert back when the time comes. If we were trying to keep somebody permanently, we'd definitely keep Lambert and send Jones back. But Jones has actually contributed more from that left-hand side than Lambert has in the opportunities that he's had. So I think we keep Jones around for the fact that he can play on the left, which none of the rest of them can. They all want to play on the right. And Lambert, I guess, is the one who misses out. Well, I think Lambert can play on the left as well, but I always tend to go for Jones ahead of him because, you know, I'm a posh fan. Of course, I'm going to play Ricky J. Jones for Manchester City when I have the opportunity to play Ricky J. Jones for Manchester City. What do you take me for? Masaba on the edge there. He's been very quiet here. That one moment in the first half where he looked like he might create something, but there's been nothing since then. Knight also not really pulling his weight today. We've obviously got the big guns down on the bench ready to come on. De Gasperi's going to come off, and we're going to bring on Shane Flynn to play left back. We are going to take off Knight and bring on Ricky J. Jones. And I kind of want to get Delap on. We're chasing a goal here. Do we take off Masaba? I think we will. We'll take Masaba off, put Betrancourt out on the right-hand side and get Delap on up front. Again, we're going to offer some encouragement and hope that we can get another late winner from Liam Delap. Or, I mean, anyone else really, but Delap always looks like the most likely source of goals for us. Right, Edwards and Mbete both tiring now. We have no... Right, we can bring Wilson Esbrand on and put Flynn to centre back. We don't have anyone who can play right back, other, I guess, than Shane Charles. So what we could do is bring Thorndyke on and switch to this 4-2-3-1 again, where we want Delap to play as an advanced forward. Jones should be that. He should be that. I haven't got the player instructions set up for this system. And in fact, we'll swap those two around like that and have Ferguson as a right back, Charles at centre back. And maybe just having that extra man pushing forward will be enough for us to get the breakthrough. At least it tells the match engine we're trying something. We're trying to get a goal. There is Jones looking to just slide it forward to Delap. He needed a little bit more meat on that for it to be anything more than just an aimless punt forward. But there's Betrancourt, who's tiring, I think, and misses out on the ball. And Derby trying to get it clear, but we are all over them now. It's not Derby, it's Preston. It's Derby who played in the last game. Wilson Esbrand with the cross to Delap, and he can't keep his header down. There's still 10 minutes left in this game. We're going to offer some more encouragement, and it's Preston with a deep, deep throw, and we're going to try and win the ball back from them. It was Thorndyke closing down. Good work from him. And now Taylor, who's had a very good game today. Betrancourt to Thorndyke with the looping header. Probably would have preferred a flick on there. He had Delap behind him. I'm not sure how much he knew about that. A flick onto Delap puts Delap in. And I think it is going to end 1-1. I guess, on reflection of how the two games have gone, 4 points is probably fair. But it shows we're still a little bit frustrating. So we're not a team who are going to run away with promotion this year. I think there's not really anyone who's grabbed a hold of this league at the moment and started to put together a series of wins. So we're still in with the shout at the top of the league. We've got a game in hand and we're only 6 points behind. So we're officially in a race for automatic promotion, but we're also not massively consistent. It's a strange league this season. But by next episode, we'll be more than halfway through it and we'll be into the January transfers and it'll be FA Cup third round time. So there'll be lots going on. And I mean, we've got some decisions to make about how we're going to play this January transfer window. If you've enjoyed that, please make sure you leave a nice big thumbs up on there for me. Subscribe to the channel for daily Football Manager videos. And thank you very much for watching.